I paid $500 for this 1997 KX 125. Let's find out if I got a good deal. Fingers crossed. So last night I picked up my new project bike. It is a 1997 KX 125. And I'm pretty stoked about it. I got it for $500. The problem is that the shifter doesn't shift. It's stuck in gear. That's why the chain's off. And this is kind of scary. This is one of the first things I noticed. There's hardly any clutch action going on. So we're gonna tear into this thing quick and kind of see what we got going on. So when I was looking at it yesterday, I ended up running back home and I grabbed an impact and I took off these 6 bolts so I could see what was going on with the clutch, because that was going to be the make or break on whether I really wanted to buy this thing. So I took off these bolts and I noticed that the clutch was loose and one of the springs and bolts was missing and broken in the basket itself. So to dig into this a little bit more, what we're going to do is we're going to drain the coolant and we're going to take off this first clutch cover, and then we're going to take off this whole side cover. There is some epoxy fix on the side here, so I'm a little bit nervous about that, but we're going to dig into this thing and see what we come up with. Stay tuned. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drain the coolant. Knowing my KX250, it's going to be this bolt right here at the bottom of the water pump. It's the only one that'll have a seal on it more than likely. I did look in the radiator and there wasn't anything in there, so I am a little bit nervous about if there's even anything in here. So we're going to pop this off. And yikes. There's nothing in there, but I do have the radiator cap on. So maybe if we just release the pressure. There. Oh, we're getting something. Oh, it doesn't look to be a lot. Okay, so it's basically nothing. Yikes. Okay, so there's pretty much no coolant in this thing. So maybe there'll be a little bit of oil in the crankcase, but I kind of doubt that because when I took this cover off, it didn't really look like there was anything in there either. So what we need is a 14 on the bottom here. And that plug looks a little stripped out, so we're going to hammer it down. Alright, so it's actually coming off, so that's a good sign. Oh, cool. A couple drops of water. That's not good. That's not good at all. Okay. And some milky stuff. Yikes. We're not off to a good start. So, just because it'll be helpful for us to work on this thing, we're going to take off this pipe. And it doesn't look like there is any seal or anything connecting the head pipe to the silencer, so all we got to do is take off this one bracket down here. It looks like there's supposed to be a bracket up here. We'll have to look that up and get these parts coming. But yeah, it's pretty much just these 2 springs off the cylinder. Take one off. Take the second one off. And we're going to need a 10mm to take off this bolt here on the mount. That was really loose. That was kind of crazy. So, it should kind of just come right out of here. So there's our copper, so that's a good sign. Now, this bike did run when I picked it up. Oh, there we go. Man, this thing is sooty. It is sealed fairly well though. Can't really complain too much. We'll end up ripping more into this thing. Yeah. This thing's kind of rough. No shit, it's 500 bucks. So we got our head pipe off. Alright, so now that we got our head pipe off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this cover first. So we're gonna grab our 8mm right here. Zip these bolts off. So there definitely are some metal specks in here, which I guess really isn't that surprising. So we'll move that off to the side. So this is kind of what I was talking about. So as you can see, we got a broken bolt in there. Not that big of a deal, but you see this is supposed to have tension on it. And there is quite a bit of play in there. We might end up having to replace this entire basket. But yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off these bolts and we're just gonna see kind of what we got going on in here. So these are all gonna be 10mm. So there's one spring and bolt. Spring and bolt. Alright, so those came out fairly good. I'm happy about that. Take this clutch cover off. So that feels fine. That's kind of odd. This all seems fine. Some metal specks in there, but overall it does seem fine. Very strange. So we got our push tube out. Put that off to the side. I'll show you guys kind of what I'm talking about. So here is our push rod. Gets actuated by a cam, and that's what that lever is. And that pushes out, and it pulls this pressure plate away from the clutch, and that's how you're able to slip the clutch, basically. And pull that apart. All right. Actually, I want this cover. I want to see if this cover actually fits in here or not. Oh, that help if we lined it up, eh? Alright, so that fits in there. So in theory, that should lock in there just fine. So when they found this broken bolt, or whenever they were looking for this broken bolt, they didn't even put the pressure plate on right, because it's supposed to be sitting just like this. My goodness. It's scary having other people work on stuff, because that ends up looking similar to this. Alright, we're going to pull this cover off now. We have our hose disconnected right here, and I believe that's all we have to disconnect. As you can see, there's some terrible RTV job, because I'm guessing this is leaking, and there is some epoxy down here. So we're gonna find out here really quick what exactly this thing's life was like. And this is burnt too. This seal's popped out. Whatever, not a big deal. It has a Boyson reed cage on it though, kind of neat, a metal one. Nice keen carb, PWK. I think it's a 36. So yeah, bunch of 8mm bolts again, and we're gonna have to take this cover off so that we can disconnect the power valve too. All right, so this is kind of neat. As you can see right here on this power valve, there's this round thing and this shaft with this little piece that comes out, and that's supposed to ride on here. So technically you don't really need to unbolt anything to take this side cover off. There is a bolt right there where my finger's at that you can take it off, but in theory you don't really have to. This should just slide off. As you can see, someone must have been in here and never put this back on correctly, and there is a dangerously large amount of dirt and crap that has been getting into here. So you can see that the seal failed. The seal's right there, the gasket, and then this seal seems to be all right, but we'll have to do some better examining here in a minute. So we're gonna take this off and see what else is going on in here. So that epoxy was actually covering up that bolt right there. So I had to take a screwdriver and this hammer and chisel it away. And you can see whoever put this on messed up pretty bad. They actually cracked this side cover right here. So we're gonna have to do something about that, whether that be get a new side cover, or we do have the option of a TIG welder over there. So we might do some TIG magic and see if we can get this to work. Otherwise, we'll just try and find a used one. But I thought that was funny. We're gonna take this bolt out, pop this thing off. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so I got the clutch cover off, and I was having a hard time getting the shifter off. So that's why our starter gear is missing. You're actually supposed to pull the cover off the shaft. It didn't work out. It was kind of being a pain in the butt, but I ended up getting that off, so that was cool. But as you can see, our shifter shaft looks kind of silly, and there's a spring right there. So we're gonna do some more digging into that. Our case is unfortunately cracked on the bottom here. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna be able to do about that. It looked like someone just started tightening down the bolts, something was out of place, and it just pulled and cracked. So that really sucks. Hopefully we'll be able to clean that out, and maybe we'll be able to weld that back up and keep it tight. Otherwise, looking at this here too, we might just end up looking into a whole new cover because this is pretty trashed. So yeah, hopefully this doesn't cost too much and we're able to find some parts. And then hopefully the rest of everything else is still in good shape. Yeah, we'll start tearing the rest of this stuff apart and we will see. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this nut off. I used the impact, it's a 30mm. And take this off. And you should be able to pull the clutch and everything out. Actually, let's see if we can just do this. Maybe not. We'll pull all the clutches out. Screw it. We're gonna replace them anyway, because I'm sure these are junk. Take this, pull this out, hopefully. Oh, wow. That is kind of on there. Try prying in here a little bit. Okay. This is fun. There we go. Just had to break it. Break that seal a little bit. Now I should be able to pull this out. There's going to be 2 bearings there. God, this basket's pretty trashed. So that's definitely part of our shifting problem there too. Yikes. We might be looking for a new basket. But anyway. So the next thing obviously is our shift shaft. So we'll pull this out. Make sure we get that sealed right. And so I think what happened here is this spring was not engaged with this. And it wasn't pushing these out far enough to actually grab onto our gears. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the spring on, we're going to slide the shift shaft back through, and then we're going to see if we can get this thing to shift. And this should be fairly easy, because what happens here is that this moves forward and backward. And that spring is used to keep tension on it. And the spring fell out. And luckily the spring's still in there and not all shredded up to crap. We're gonna see, we might replace this spring anyway. If it's an available part. That's the other thing here, is that some of these parts are not available parts anymore. So let's slide this thing back through. What gear are we in? We must be in second gear, maybe? All right, cool. So I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna set you guys up right here so you guys can see, hopefully, what's going on. Lower you down a little bit. Actually, let's get a little bit closer, right? Go down a little bit again. All right, so I'm gonna grab the shifter. We're gonna slide it on the shaft. And then we're gonna see if we can get this thing to actually change gears. Ooh, did it slide off? Gosh, this shifter is stripped out too. Fantastic. My goodness. This thing is kind of a pile of crap. Woo! There we go. All right. Whew. God, can I even get it on there? Oh, you know what else? The centering mechanism that goes right here is missing too. So what gear are we in? We must be in first. So first, neutral. You can see this gear isn't, or this spins independently, or can spin independently. So we have neutral, and then second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, neutral, 1. That upshift is not great. Fourth gear seems unhappy. Ooh, that was nice. Oh goodness. Alright, so I think my shifter is getting in the way because it did slip again. Obviously we got some other stuff going on here, but I think overall this is fixable. Except for that fourth gear drum seems to be a little bit unhappy. So that's sixth, fifth. This should be fourth, third, second, neutral, and then first. All right, cool. So we have all of our gears, and this sprocket should be spinning pretty good. All right, so our transmission's fine. We pretty much just need to get some parts ordered. So this is actually super crazy. What I found that's wrong with this thing is when I go and I pull this out, when I pulled it out the first time, I was like, interesting, because this spring, when it was in the up position, was hitting this gear. I bet you this gear popped this spring off and made it not shift. So what I discovered in that is that I bet you this bushing in here wasn't pressed in all the way. They shoved the shift shaft through, and this was riding on this gear and popped it off. So what you want to do is you always want to make sure that you get this kind of collar shoved in there so that it can ride nice and easy back and forth on the shift shaft itself. And then you have these pawls here that'll grab our drum. So I think that's actually what happened, and then it caused basically all this other crap to happen. Because I'm willing to bet what happened is, oh, I put a whatever, whether they put a clutch or they were trying to figure out why this thing wasn't shifting right. I bet you when they were inspecting all this that they didn't put that on correctly, so that it wouldn't shift right. They didn't put that cover back on correctly because they just tried to slam it back together and they broke it on the bottom here. And when they went to go put the pressure plate on, they couldn't get it to line up right, and they just ran the bolts home, and then they broke a bolt. All right, so with this project, we're gonna try and reuse this piece of the clutch basket. It's not grooved super bad, so I think we can reuse this. That is, if we can get this bolt out. Now it is kind of down in there, but I think I might be able to just twist it backwards. Fingers crossed they didn't cross-thread the crap out of it into here. So I think I'm going to be able to reuse that. This part of the basket, on the other hand, I am pretty concerned about. These grooves are really, really deep, and I don't know if I feel comfortable taking a file and cleaning those up. Because, I mean, look at that. They're so deep in there. And they're all like that, too. They're all super cut in. So we might be looking into getting a new basket. The thing I worry about, though, is there's all these gears on the back, and these gears are a really main part of this build. So we might end up having to just file these down and deal with the slop and then keep on filing them down. It doesn't look like they've ever been filed before. This basket does look fairly factory. I don't think this thing's in terrible, terrible shape. I don't think it's in great shape either, though. just to be clear. But we're gonna get some parts and we're gonna fix this thing up. So we need a spring for in here for sure. We're gonna get a water pump rebuild kit, and actually we should tear into that cover too. I'll see if I can find a used cover. Fingers crossed we can find one for fairly cheap and keep this thing all under budget. Hopefully make some money on this thing. I was talking to my brother though. He was thinking about maybe keeping it, or I'll end up selling it to one of the guys I know so we can kind of keep it in the family. Yeah, we'll be ordering a bunch of parts. If you guys feel like this video was valuable to you, please like, subscribe, check out some of my other stuff I got going on. What I'd like to start doing here soon is actually, I'd like to kind of turn my garage into like a rebuild shop. I like doing this kind of stuff, and it'd be really cool if people would bring me their bikes and then I'll just go through them and fix them for them. I really like tinkering, and if I can make a couple extra bucks on it, who knows? Maybe this can become another facet of my career. And until next time, guys, have a good one.